So here we go. Finally going to get around to finishing the bench itself. So this is the fourth and final video of building the bench. However, there's going to be two more videos after this, one dealing with the leg vise and one dealing with the tail vise. So anyway, right now I'm actually putting in the cross members down low, the dovetail cross members on the ends, and I'm using the dowel trick that I explained in the last video, and the dogs are all excited about what I'm doing, trying to figure it out. Doc, the brown and white one there, likes to attack the air hose, so every time I blow out a hole, he's right there to attack the hose, or attack the air. It's kind of funny. Watch, there he goes. Anyway, so this is, these don't go all the way through, of course. I'm just put them in about 4.5 inches. And then once we get those together, I'm going to lay it over on its side and do the long ones. And this will make the base all one big piece. For gluing these, I use the Gorilla Glue. It's a polyresin of some sort. I forget what they call it now. Polyurethane glue. So you know, you get the joint wet, put the glue on, and the glue expands and fills it up. I figured that'd be a pretty good idea, since the pockets for these dovetails weren't exactly the straightest, smoothest gluing surface. So I thought that would be a good idea. Seems to do the trick. Plane down the dowels, and then I'm going to sand the top here. I don't have a decent handheld belt sander, so this is how I flatten things, but I've got a lot of practice with side grinders like this, because I've been carving the drums before I got the big lathe where I could turn them all. I would actually carve them, and I used side grinders a lot. So I'm fairly adept at keeping a flat surface even with a disc like that. This is probably my second most favorite part of this build. Man, the boiled linseed oil just really brings out the color in the white oak. Makes it look fantastic. But it's my second favorite part. My favorite part's coming up. So after we got this all, or I got this all cleaned up, wiped down, and oiled, Dad helped me carry the tops back over. And you'll note that the outside corners aren't on yet, and for some reason I didn't get that on film when I put them on. So next scene, they're on. And I'm going to explain what I'm doing here on film here in just a second, so I'm not going to go into it. Okay, so I'm a bit of a goof sometimes. The last thing you saw was me wedging the top down. I had the clamps up there. Let me explain that a little bit. This top was sticking 5/16 that way, and this one was 5/16 long on that end. I guess there was some twist in the overall legs, so I was able to put those clamps on there, and when I wedged the top down, it stayed, and it's maybe a 1/16 out now, so it's it'll work. It's a workbench, right? So anyway, but then I had shut the camera off and went in and ate, and I came back out and started to do the planing and flattening of the tops. And I reached over and I hit record on the camera and started working. The air compressor was running at the time, so I didn't hear the beep on the camera, which isn't surprising since the air compressor's loud. I forgot to turn the camera on in the first place, so hitting the record button when the camera's off did no good at all, and I lost all of the footage of me leveling the tops. But that was last night. I came out this morning and thought I better explain why I've completely skipped that step in the video. As this thing gets used, it'll have to be leveled again, and so we'll have to do a video on that in the future sometime. But I use the I'll explain. I use the power planer and then the jack plane to found all the high spots by sliding the level down it, and I cut a couple of sticks and used them to find out if there's any twists or any high spots that way. And I've got it pretty flat. I mean, it's maybe not quite perfect. This edge is a little high right through this area, but it's flat on both ends, and I'm okay with it for now. I do need to cut all my little dog pegs, and I actually have decided that I'm just going to make a couple of pegs that I can stick in there to use for now, and then do that later on. My next stage is to make the middle piece, and there's a whole lot of sanding to do. I'm only going to sand it to 120. It doesn't need to be slick on top, it just needs to be smooth. And I got to do all the sanding and make the piece for the middle here, and I'm going to run into a bit of a problem there because for some reason I'm 1 7/8 here and I'm 2 inches down here, so I've got to deal with that. And I've also got to do the insides of these dovetails here because I cut the pockets deep so I can just flush them up, forgetting that once this top's wedged on I can't take them off and work on that. So I guess I'm going to take a flush cut saw and cut them as close as I can, and then maybe use files and rasps to smooth them out. I think that'll do. But I've also got to deal with the fact that this is 1 7/8 and that's 2 inches. I don't know if I'm just going to make my piece so that it is tapered, or if I'm going to just let it be loose at that end, or how I'm going to do that. I have yet to decide. But I'll tell you what, this thing is solid as a rock. And I was pretty close on my guess of 400 pounds. Because lifting is, yeah, well, you can hear it when it hits the ground. So, anyway, onward and forward. So just to be fair, I was picking up the light end. The other end of that has 16 inches of overhang, and 16 inches of 4-inch thick white oak is heavy enough to actually make that end lighter than, or make this close end lighter than that far end. So the other end is a bit heavier when you try to pick it up. The problem is that my concrete floor is very smooth in this shop, and so if I push hard, it'll just slide right across the floor, which kind of sucks. I think I'm going to put some rubber pads under the feet. So I got it sanded and I fixed up those little dovetail corners there. And then my favorite part. This is awesome. That is just handsome. Look at that walnut. Now I switch it to the other end and the other side, and away we go. Yeah, I love the way this turned out. It's almost a shame it's going to get beat up. It's a workbench. It's going to get beat up. So now we're going to get started on the divider, which I'm going to make out of maple. Give the top a little bit more contrast. And I ended up deciding to taper the piece, so it only fits in there one way. Unfortunately, when I glued it up, I wasn't paying very close attention, and it glued up with a slight curve, so it fits in there a little tight, but because it's pressing against one side, it's pressing against one side on the ends and then the other side in the middle. It's only like 1/8 of an inch of a curve, but it's enough. So, not ideal, but hey, you know what? It serves its purpose. So the little blocks that I'm gluing in there at the far end are a 1/2 inch thick, and at this closer end they're closer to 3/8 of an inch thick, and then of course the sides are 3/4. It works, I guess. Again, not perfect, and I'm not like following any plans or anything. This is just kind of like I've seen pictures and I like it, so I build it. I do that a lot. In fact, I don't think I've followed plans for anything in a very long time. Although one day I want to build a spinning wheel, a full-fledged spinning wheel, Saxony style spinning wheel, and when I do that, I've got plans for that. I've actually purchased plans for one, but that's a ways out yet. I love these little plastic knives I get at the dollar store. The glue dries on them after you're done, and you just bend the knife and it just pops off. And you can use a fresh knife every time. It's great. So here I am clamping it, and this was the mistake. I should have went ahead and clamped it in the bench. I could have put wax paper over the 2 cross members, stuck it down in there, and then wedged it, and it would have been straight to the thing when it dried. But I wasn't thinking that far ahead. So here we are about 2 hours later, and we're going to get it all fit up. Got to plane the top down a little bit and then flip it over and plane the bottom. Well, actually, what ends up being top and bottom really doesn't matter until I put the notches in. But and yes, I'm going to cheat and use the power planer. Go ahead and sand it while it's in there, and then flip it over and do the same thing. So even after planing it, it was still sticking up a good 1/2 inch, so I was quite fine with that. That's enough to bump a board against and plane if I need to. Although before I do that, I'm going to have to get rubber under those feet, because a plane will push the whole table sideways, slides it on the floor. So I sand it, and then break the edges a little bit, and then I cut the end that's closest to us here, and then mark the other end and cut it. And once I've got that all flushed up and ready to go, go underneath and mark where the rails are, and then use the marking gauge down from the top to set where the notches end, so that the top is set flush. Carry those lines up to that mark, and then begin chiseling. I actually cut knife shelves again and used a handsaw to get down to the bottom of the cut, and then knock the rest of it out with the chisel. You know, a lot of the stuff that I've done with the chisels on this project, the majority of it, could have all been done with a router, but I hate routers. I don't know why. I'm probably one of the very few woodworkers that just don't like routers. I have a router table. I have, I think, 3 free routers that I could all set up any one for any given thing and go to it, but I just don't like the machines. Probably comes from those days when I was working in a cabinet shop and got to clean up people's fingers after they got them cut off in the damn things. Might be a little bit of it. speaking of woodworking injuries, in the process of building this thing, I have injured my, let's see, it would be my left hand, like 4 different times. 3 times cuts and once getting crushed by a heavy piece of white oak. That kind of sucked. My hand's sore. So once I get everything to line up, it pops right down where it's supposed to be. Didn't even have to do any extra flushing. It was like, heck yeah. And then I put the chisel right where it would fall over. That was funny. You just have to put it in up against one of the sides, and I didn't do that at first. I was getting kind of like happy about this part. Having a bench that holds your tools is a very, very nice thing. One of my friends commented and said said that somebody needs to buy this before he scratches it up. Like, I don't know, I got a lot of hours in this thing now. But by golly, I do have me a sturdy workbench now. I think I'm going to drill some holes in the blocks that separate the 2 halves of the divider there, so I can put smaller tools in it that would normally fall through. Because I'm not going to drill the holes all the way through, just enough to stick them into, like the marking knife there. Well, it'll be a few days, maybe even a week, before I get the Vice video up, or the first of the Vice videos up, but it's coming. So thanks all for watching. We'll see you next time.